What's up, y'all? It's B Dougie, and I'm back again with another Open Sauce Pizza Party interview for the summer series. And today we got Benji the Groot from Shipyard. Shipyard's a way for you to manage your staging and deployment environments. And they use this term called ephemeral environments. So I think you should probably just write that down because that's going to come up a lot in the conversation. I also want to point out that this live stream did not go very well when it comes to Twitch. Twitch had some weird CDN issues while we were trying to live stream. So the first half of the conversation actually got pretty much deleted at this point. Through a local recording, I was actually able to save the last half of the conversation. But I just want to point out that in the beginning of the conversation, we talk about Shipyard, we talk about the sort of the beginnings and how they got it started. Hopefully we can cover that in a future podcast episode or the conversation in a blog post. So to catch you up, we did check github.com/shipyard for some examples. We grabbed the React Flask example. I ended up forking it, cloning it, and deploying that to Shipyard during the GitHub app installation. So if you actually follow that same pattern, you'll actually do that as well. Another thing to point out is that Shipyard is in pre-alpha, so you have to request access. But if you do mention B-Dougie and your request, you'll get access. You can try it out. So with that being said, I think we can jump in and see exactly where we are, what I just explained. We're gonna have an environment deployed on Shipyard, and then I'm gonna create a pull request to make that change happen.
Okay, cool. So I'm installing CoScreen real quick, but so I can talk you through Shipyard, I think, while we don't have that going quite yet. And yeah, so every time that you added a kind of the main branch there, and so the idea is that we're going to do a PR off of that, and you get your featured branches. But right now, if you click that visit button, you're gonna get to go straight into that example application. The one thing to note is that all of these ephemeral environments are guarded through SSO, and so in this particular instance, you're actually going to need to OAuth in through your B-Dougie GitHub so that works.
Yep, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And now I've got my Flask app up and running. This is pretty cool. It almost took no effort for me to fork and then deploy that to Shipyard, which is like kind of the developer experience I'm used to. I love when companies and projects make my life easier, so I could focus on making sure I have semicolons in my JavaScript. So that's where I specialize in, is making sure everybody has semicolons. So we've done that, and you mentioned that we can create feature branches and get ephemeral environments specifically for like staging while testing while contributing.
Yeah. So the way we do that is just we go back over to your source control. In this case, maybe the GitHub.com is a good place to do it. And then you're gonna create a PR, and that'll automatically generate a new ephemeral environment off of that.
Okay, cool. So I could probably make and I'm not familiar with this app, but let's just go to the next page, I guess. And make
we could just make a simple thing. If you open up the app, there's actually some suggestions of where to make some changes. So if we go look at that environment, we could do that. And B-Dougie, I got to tell you something ridiculous. My version of Mac is too old to run Cosine. Just for a little color here, I refuse to get rid of my Retina because of the keyboard. And I'm very excited to get the new M1, or the M1 based Macs. But unfortunately, because we're a Kubernetes and a container company, I can't give up my Intel, my x86 quite yet. So I have a really good excuse as to why I'm running such an old operating system. But it's a little embarrassing for a live stream, but whatever. I like my Retina. I love my Retina Mac, my 2015. I can't let her go. So hopefully that doesn't reflect too poorly upon Shipyard. It's just me. By the way, I'm barely a developer anymore. So everyone else is, so what are you going to do? But yeah, so if we navigate onto the site itself, there's some suggestions of what we might want to do to make changes to this example starter app. And just for a little context here, there's kind of like a mono repo, multi-repo thing happening in our ecosystem. And in this particular instance, it's a mono repo, but it has multiple services. And that might be something to dive into for a second as well, of how we actually define the application. But in general, this particular one, it has a React front end, a Flask back end, and then there's a worker and there's a database and there's a caching thing. And we're also doing something with a local stack. I don't know if you guys are familiar with local stack, but it's a pretty cool open source project.
I've actually not heard of local stack.
Oh, it's really cool. You should check these guys out. They basically mock all of the AWS managed services. So in this particular instance, we wanted to have the ability to have like a blob store. So we're using local stack to host a generic image so that, and it's like a fake S3, right? So for ephemeral environments, right, we don't want to have to bootstrap managed services as well. So a disclaimer here, we do have like a partnership that we're working on, the local stack, soon to announce. You heard it here first. But love those guys, super smart. And they're like helping a lot of our serverless customers still leverage the full power of ephemeral environments. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense as well. And so thanks for the update on that, and also the awareness around that. But let's go back to if I make this change into looks like there's a suggestion to light mode to dark mode, or dark mode to light mode in the app.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds like a good one.
Yeah, so I'll just go in the app.js and make that change. And I suppose I could just do it in CodeSpaces. I'm not sure if this is too much flexing at the moment.
I mean, I do a lot of my demos just using the GitHub IDE.
Yeah. So did we ship the
I don't even know if I'm allowed to call that an IDE. I use the website.
You really are not a developer.
I know. Okay, I'm a former developer. Unfortunately, my co-founder Peter is 10 times the engineer I am, so I kind of got the short end of the stick from a co-founder perspective. So now I spend my time in GitHub.com making pull requests. So yes, we can.
Excellent.
I love it. Don't get me wrong; it's a powerful tool.
But I just wanted to mention that. So you missed that. I was React Flask. There's a new feature. So if you go to any GitHub repo and you hit period, it actually opens up a web editor within VS Code. So it's something we shipped like 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So I just did that. I made my change here within the VS Code in the browser.
Wow, I'm playing with the period thing right now as you were saying that, and you just made my life. I get to be in VS Code now. Like I'm going back towards developer life. This is making me feel really excited.
Yeah, you don't even have to worry about setting up environments or anything like that. I guess it's kind of your.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I like to worry about. So I'm not gonna.
Yeah, as I said that out loud, one. Yeah, I realized maybe I'm talking to the wrong person.
Yeah, I like. That's yeah.
All right, so we're going into. I already got to find out where my dark mode changes. We're gonna get it right. Okay, light mode is happening. We're gonna commit this back up to GitHub, and we probably should create a branch and call this open sauce, because that's not very descriptive. And then we'll add the front end change we just did. Commit that with a descriptive message, which I realize that this is all blocked by the back of our heads, so I should move this up. Git commit message, light mode, and then open sauce. All right, so pushing back up to my branch, now we have done it all in the browser, which is fancy of us to do that. Okay, so now you're saying I could open a pull request here, and is Shipyard going to do a bunch of fancy stuff?
Well, I mean, we're going to take those hooks and we're going to start building a brand new ephemeral environment.
Got the branch open with our minute change. Cool. So we have our branch up And then should I be in the shipyard dashboard, or where do I see those changes happen?
So yeah, the dashboard will show you that. Obviously, you do need to. Did you actually make a PR?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So I've got
So then it should be.
a PR going. Okay, so for the sake of, I'll just explain this out to you. I now see a yellow button. It's now spinning, saying building. So it seems like it's captured the fact that I have a new environment that needs to be spun up,
That's
and
exactly right.
that's amazing. So I'm essentially, and you know this from my background. I used to work at Netlify, so having builds on PRs is something I love. And also not being able to. That's what I'm trying to say. Not being the sort of blocker on getting staging environments up and down and decommissioned is also something that I love too as well. Because I've come from engineering teams where we all passed around staging keys and pulled them out of like a gist or a wiki, and would have to knock on other people's desks to be able to say, "Hey, can I have that staging environment because I need to get this thing in front of a PM." Um, it sounds like this is all taken care of for us.
Yeah, that's really kind of the core of what we're trying to do right now. And we're seeing pretty cool results early on from some of our awesome customers. And we're the velocity is getting sped up a lot. The Suez Canal analogy is what a lot of people talk about, where just when you have that one single point of failure for staging environments, now it's kind of an asynchronous activity for all the members of the team. So yeah, very much like that. And Netlify, very much an inspiration for all of this. Obviously for not Jamstack, for the entire stack, but big fans of Netlify as well.
And I forgot we actually didn't even talk through this app, so that might be worth talking about because as we wait for the build. So this is a Flask React app. So this example is the kind of be the example of what a normal sort of full stack application looks like in modern web developers workflows.
Yeah, we have a bunch of different examples of this stuff, but in general, a big push we make. So I gotta say, I gotta give some shout outs to Docker Compose real quick.
Yeah.
The big thing that we kind of leverage right now is Docker Compose. The background of myself and Peter and a bunch of the team members are we're kind of Kubernetes. Experts is a strong word, but you do a lot of work in Kubernetes, and kind of what we found doing a lot of consulting work there was that a lot of people kind of best practices were an issue, and then also just all of the challenging forks in the road when deploying to Kubernetes kind of can take a lot of time. And depending on your SRE and DevOps resources, it's not necessarily worth it early on. Let's just put it that way. So basically what we've realized was that Docker Compose is kind of like a reasonable place to ask developers to get to. And we've seen good response with that. And basically our kind of our thesis here is get it to work locally and we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
So Docker Compose is the huge piece of the application definition. Now, what we do on top of that is we do extend it slightly using metadata. So if you have multiple routes or you want to do a data migration, stuff like that, we have like a little extension that we have. It's in our docs. So this particular project is essentially, we've seen a lot of these with a React front end, and then some application stuff in the back end, on the backside. And so it's all set up so that you can download it and forget Shipyard. You can just use this as a great starter application, just locally for Compose reasons. But we obviously want you to use Shipyard as well. But our big initiative here is a lot of what we focus on is just trying to get adoption of Compose and some best practices there as a big part of it.
And that's the thing that we had a chat months ago or maybe a couple weeks ago. What is time now? But I was talking to you about how my approach to building Twitch integrations and having those run in the background, the best way to do it is through a local host and have that run. But that, as you can see, as you try to stream and get bit rates and have a Zoom call, that could be a lot on your one machine. So
Right.
having it to work locally, but then get that deployed somewhere where you can actually just access that without having one more thing clogging up the pipeline when it comes to getting, well, the internet pipe, I guess. Um, so I love that, and I love that we kind of we. I'm glad you brought this up because I forgot to even mention this. The fact that if you have a compose file, Shipyard kind of knows what to do with that. Is that kind of the assumption?
Yeah, we specifically take your compose file and then transpile it into best practices Kubernetes charts, basically, and then we use those charts with a bit of extra mojo to do namespace environments that are fully ephemeral. So that's the really easy. Well, maybe that's a bunch of gobbledygook, but I think for your audience, it's the easy way to explain it.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate that too. Thanks for dumbing it down. But yeah, we had a couple of hiccups getting started. This kind of rounds up the conversation. I don't know if this build's going to finish before we're done, but I will interstitch a successful screenshot of the build working now, and then as I'm talking, you also see me click the button and then see the live environment now. So that's because the magic of editing. I can add that in post. So
Right. The only issue is we do log the build times of everything. So actually, you'll say it was 6 minutes. It'll be
6 minutes ago.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll. But actually, it looks like it's deploying right now. So if we stall for 15 to 20 seconds, I think it'll be there. But regardless, thank you for having me. Did we cover everything that you wanted to talk about? Any other questions? I'm happy to to answer anything else.
Honestly, I think and it's pretty timing. I don't know. The fact that now it's deploying and preparing is absolutely amazing. But I did wanted to point out the fact that we did pull from Shipyard. You all had a bunch of example applications. So if anybody needed some help or getting started, definitely check out these startup applications. Get them to run locally. And then the other thing that we should probably mention as well is the fact that if you are looking to, as this a solution for you, click that little request access. I know y'all are, how long I didn't even cover how long you've been around for, or how you've been working on this problem.
So we've been working on the problem for a few years now, but honestly, prior to COVID, we were a consulting company, and then we kind of built this exoskeleton for doing environments for all of our customers. And then that quickly evolved into a product. And then with kind of the remote nature of the world that happened in March of last year, kind of things just kind of took off from there. So we're still not actually GA. We're shooting, I think we're going to be doing that October 15th. We do have a bunch of customers, but one thing I should note is that every one of our customers actually gets their own bootstrapped single tenant Kubernetes cluster. So it's not exactly, so there is costs associated. So we're pretty conservative with who we allow on there. But I think you were alluding to this. Happy if you mentioned BDougie, we're happy to kind of put you at the top of the list there. Big fan.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. This is some serious coordination orchestration happening here. So hopefully folks who are interested or need this sort of orchestration into your projects, that it's handled, definitely reach out, have that question or that conversation. But we'll be waiting for that October 15 date and hearing more about Shipyard until then.
Yeah, I'll bug you about it then. I'm excited for all those things. And yeah, I mean, the one thing, just because I know your audience a little bit, is it's important. Like, we're not trying to replace DevOps here. We're kind of just trying to have you guys, have us, because we're DevOps people, work on kind of more challenging issues. And so it's really important that I basically trying to say, like, I built 20 different companies' ephemeral environment solutions over the years, same with my co-founder. And we kind of think it's time to get rid of the bespoke scripts or stitching together Ansible or Chef or Puppet or even Terraform, and get a little bit of rigor and opinionation around how to deal with these environments. And that's what we're trying to do. So I do think that the environment, the light version, is up and running, by the way.
Yeah, so I just opened it up and it's showing folks that we do have the light environment. We do have the original dark environment here. And that was great. It works. And I'm happy. happy to see this work, because now the context that I have now when it comes to Shipyard, I know what to do now for all my other projects. So I might have a lot more questions for you in email, and we'll be chatting for sure.